Lamar, and I am the owner and founder of Emerging Educational Consulting. Our company provides one-to-one mentorship for students from the beginning to the end of the college application process. When I talk about what I do, I talk about how I wake up every day to grow good humans. And what better way to do that than to empower people with education and information? And today I am delighted to introduce you to Tyler Moulton. I met Tyler at a NACAC event and actually had been following him for quite a while, but I wanted to take the opportunity, Tyler, for you to introduce yourself. Tyler is the head of academics and Veritas AI partnerships, and today he's here to share with us why AI and high schoolers.
Yeah, thank you so much, Laura. It was so lovely meeting you at the NACAC International ACAC event, and so excited to be chatting with you today. Yeah, as you mentioned, so I work with Veritas AI. We're an AI program for high school students. Tiniest bit about me and my background. So prior to my work at Veritas, where I've been for, gosh, 3.5 years now, crazy to say, I was originally an AI astronomy researcher. I did my research at Cambridge in the UK, and then very ironically, Cambridge and at Harvard, Cambridge in the US. I'm a big astronomy nerd. If you'll see, these are actually NASA posters in my background in my room. But I'm an even bigger AI nerd. I came to this program, I think, both kind of excited and passionate about the AI space, and also just really influenced by my own experience. I was really lucky at Cambridge to have a mentor who encouraged me to get into data science and AI despite only having a semester of coding under my belt. I actually had no AI under my belt when I started this research project. He made it so clear to me, despite my feeling that it was an inaccessible, like ivory tower toolkit, he made it really clear to me how accessible this toolkit is, how accessible AI is in this day and age. And he supported me to build that skill set, build that research project, which ultimately led to me as not even a PhD student, publishing in professional journals, going to conferences. And I think that's a big thing of what brought me to Veritas in the first place. We're all about AI mentorship and projects for students. And I think I'm really inspired by that support my mentor gave me in doing this work.
What a gift to have you. They're so lucky to have you. And I think, for us, for those of us who are college consultants or parents of teenagers, there's kind of this question of like, wow, AI has just taken over everything in the past year. And so what does it even mean to get involved in AI as a high schooler? Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, it's such an interesting question because I could give you an answer that is like specific to how students at Veritas get involved, but I'm not going to lie to you, that's one silo of how students can get involved in AI. And we'll touch upon that later. But I think to get involved with AI as a high schooler is, I think, just at the fundamental base, building an awareness and language, like qualitatively at least, not like the math or the comp side, but just building a qualitative understanding of what AI is and what it's doing around us. I think it's so important for high schoolers to be aware of software like ChatGPT, like Dolly, Midjourney, these kind of buzzword softwares we've heard about in the past few years. And I think from there, the way in which a high school student can get actively involved in AI, as in like in the AI community, is kind of a different step. But I do think every student, for the purposes of academic and AI plagiarism, for purposes of knowing these advanced softwares that are becoming increasingly relevant in the job market, in college research, in the industry, is the baseline. And from there, students can get involved by leveraging things like ChatGPT or other softwares to drive their own entrepreneurial work. At Veritas AI, we work with students on very nerdy coding and industry projects that help them build out actual software themselves to drive AI research or AI industry projects. Yeah, I would say, like, I don't think that every student needs to get involved in the AI community. I'm biased and think that they should, of course, but I think that AI really has become so, what's the word, omnipresent around us. And it's so important that students at least build fundamental awareness of it because it is here and it definitely seems it's here to stay.
Yeah, definitely. And it's all the buzz in the college consulting world, especially around essays and how do we use it? When do we use it? How are colleges using it to read applications? I mean, it's just so buzzing. And I think but let's just get down to like a high school student who's 16 years old and has an interest in AI. Like, why would they call you? And what is just, can you talk about the program and exactly point A to point B, what happens if someone is interested and wants to engage with you?
Yeah, 100%. So I think I'll answer this in kind of 3 quick steps. The first step is like, why get involved as a high schooler, as a 16-year-old? what are the two kinds of students? What are the kinds of students that get involved with us in the first place? Like, who's a good fit? And then what do we do with students to help empower them in this space? So step one, why would a student call us in the first place? I think if a student is ever interested and curious about AI, that being kind of like the specific areas of artificial intelligence, ChatGPT and generative AI being very specific, or just broadly AI in general, I think that it is a really advanced toolkit for a student to build at the high school level, something that helps them stand out as far as their college application development goes, their resume building, their internship apps they're looking towards in their career development. So I think just a student with a broad interest should explore, and it's worth getting involved in a program like ours. That's a really good segue into that second point I wanted to make. Like, what are the kinds of students that come here? And I foreshadowed this earlier saying too, I think the two kinds of students who come to Veritas AI and look for a program like ours or different opportunities similar to this one are either one, as you would expect, a computer science, programming, AI nerd. That kind of student obviously is going to find a really good fit for AI. AI has become such a huge necessary skill set to build if you're going purely into tech or into programming. So that kind of student is a natural fit. But the other kind of student that comes to our program, the second kind, is often a student who's looking to drive advanced work or research or just passion projects in their field of study in and outside of AI. And what I mean by that is AI is just a toolkit at the end of the day. It really is just a kind of combination of technology, software, all this fun stuff that a student can use in any field to drive meaningful work. My example or my passion, right, used to be astronomy. So I use AI to drive stellar classification and planet identification astronomy. I've seen students use AI for the entire opposite side of the academic spectrum, like using AI to analyze political sentiments and tweets by politicians. I've seen students use AI for art purposes. How can you make a slightly more informed, not plagiarism-driven AI art generator? There is so much that students can do, not just as AI and computer science nerds, but in driving meaningful work in their fields. And that kind of is what we aim to do at Veritas. All of our programs are project-based programs where students are learning the fundamentals of AI and building out a passion project in that. We have a few programs, but just to kind of summarize them all in one, we do remote learning focused on ensuring students build that AI toolkit and then go on to implement a project, typically involving active coding and programming that utilizes AI to answer some kind of research question or drive some kind of value for a company with our internships. The goal really is to help students empower themselves and drive impact in whatever field they're excited about, using AI as kind of the key method or tool.
Oh, tell me about some projects that have been done that you've been really excited about. Students who engaged in some of the projects that you're like, wow.
Yeah, oh my God, I have two or three examples off the top of my head. So one example that I thought was so cool is, and this is my bias for astronomy, I had the chance to work with a student a couple of years ago who was using AI for asteroid classification, specifically classifying if asteroids were hazardous or not. His project was in part inspired by the NASA DART mission. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It was this sorry, I'm laughing because to me it's like theoretical backing is so funny. NASA DART mission was this mission like 2 or 3 or 4 years ago where NASA shot a missile, I want to say, into an asteroid, specifically to test, like, we have the capacity on Earth to be able to protect ourselves. To be really clear, the student was doing no missile launching, but his project was looking at, can we use AI-driven software to identify an asteroid as hazardous to better inform that kind of mission or work. Another project I'll just mention really quickly, opposite end of the spectrum. So one of the first ever projects we saw at Veritas, this is like, oh my God, 3.5 years ago, was an AI art project. This student was really interested by technology like DALL-E, like AI, like word to image generators, but she didn't like how uncontrolled that felt for her personally. She was a studio artist and a coder, really interdisciplinary student. And she wanted to explore, like, how can I create some kind of computer vision, fancy word for AI for images, software that specifically takes an image and blends it to very specific kind of parameters or details as I just delineate. So for instance, she made an AI art image generator that took personal photos she'd taken on vacations or on school trips with friends and blended them to things like Van Gogh's Starry Night, that very specific style. And it was really lovely because she used that project not just to write a research paper, but also to provide gifts for some of her dear friends, like giving them personal photos blended to a very specific art style. It was very cool. So and those are the two that come to mind as some of my favorites.
tell me a little bit how the program's structured. So somebody applies, they pay a fee, they get started. I think one of the things that I am really hearing from you, and I want to clarify for our listeners, is that this is a program where students are following and creating passion projects where they're using AI to get and to solve some kind of a burning question. So if we go back to then the question, how is your program structured? Do they need to come in with a burning question? How old are they when they come in? How long does this engagement last? And see if we can get that. That's just the start to the question.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I think the description you gave of what we do with students is you described the meat of what we do perfectly. And to put this in a bit more like logistical context, so we have three main kinds of programs. We have one beginner program, and then we have two sets of advanced programs. All of our programs are 2 to 3 months. They're remote, so done online. They're all fully synchronous, to be clear, so done live in either group class or one-on-one sessions. So to answer your question, kind of like if a student comes in with a certain level of background, where are they a good fit, or what does a student need a certain background to come in? So our beginner program is a perfect place for students who are coming in with no AI and no coding background. If a student has absolutely no background and wants to build that foundational interest, they would start off in one of our boot camps or what we call our group classes. There they'll build a foundation in AI, either in an interdisciplinary sense or in one of our specific classes like AI applied to finance or medicine, and they'll build out a group project. If a student is coming in with a bit more of a skill set, they don't usually have to have AI skills, but they need to at least have a coding foundation to dive in head first. They'll do one of our advanced programs. These are our AI internship. This is where students are paired one-on-one with a company. They're going to work with a company manager as part of that internship to produce a tangible product for the company, be that either some kind of AI-driven analysis or an actual AI product like a chatbot for the company's website, an AI-driven landing page. And they're going to implement this AI project under the company's under their company manager, driving to present it to company leadership a couple times over the program. And then our last program, my personal favorite or my bias, is our AI research program or AI fellowship. This is where students are really, I would say, kind of getting to answer any burning question they want, because it is built as a one-on-one program between a student and a PhD candidate researcher who is an AI researcher in specifically a field they're interested, be that medicine or astronomy, etc. And they work over that program to write a research paper that we also try to help them publish. We can't guarantee publishing because we try to get students to credible academic journals. We have a pretty high success rate and a lot of support for our students on the writing side and the research side. So yeah, it's kind of a description of our three programs in a nutshell. And the last question I want to say I didn't get to is just like, what are the ages? We see high schoolers across all of these across all of these programs. One thing I will say is we usually see our boot camps lean a little younger. Our advanced programs lean a little bit older, so like 9, 10 versus 10, 11. But we really do see the full gamut of like high school, even middle school age students across these programs.
Brilliant. How, all of my practice is fully online, and I feel like in a lot of ways, I've been more engaged with students than I was pre-COVID when I had an office. But I'm wondering, with this kind of level of research and engagement, how you ensure that kind of connection and that interactive experience.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really phenomenal question. I think there are a lot of things that go into this. And I think on one side is how we select and train mentors or instructors who work with our students. We work to ensure that all of the instructors working with our students have had previous experience mentoring, usually in a one-on-one or small group context. They usually will have experience with remote learning. The sad kind of like reality of that is that most PhD candidates or most grad students went through COVID, and so are experienced with that kind of remote learning style that our program is geared towards. So we look for the specific skills that would set up an instructor to be adept at remote teaching, and then we also have training modules that help mentors move through that process. We also have a lot of infrastructure that goes into our program that I would say is really conducive to setting a student up for remote success, so to speak. It's really easy with a program like ours to set up kind of automated checkers for students to check in with them via our student portal, or to send an automatic email reminder to the mentor, just to kind of keep up with and watch the student's progress as that aligns to specific deadlines we have for them. And that's the last thing I'll say. We also use a lot of kind of like like educational structures, like scaffolded deadlines or scaffolded assignments, different kinds of like research learning pedagogy that we can use to make sure that within this remote setting, students are still getting a really high quality educational experience.
That the words that you just said like warm my heart, because I am a huge advocate for students with ADD, ADHD, twice exceptional, students on the spectrum, and dyslexia, dysgraphia. And so this idea that you're scaffolding and supporting and creating executive function systems built within the program for everyone feels very inclusive. And it sounds like that's something that's important to your mission, to be inclusive.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that is something that's foundationally important to us. I will say, like, I think it's really important to be transparent and say, like, I don't think there are enough people on our leadership team that are experts in neurodiverse learners and how best to support them. But I think ultimately something that is like kind of coincidental to working in the AI computer science space is that you find a lot of people in this space, and I identify this way myself as neurodiverse. And so you realize that the education you provide to students has to be adaptive and inclusive. So yeah, I don't think that we are perfect, and I think there's space for us to improve, but I think that we do our best, of course, to take these kinds of considerations into account because we want to make sure our students are successful in and after our program.
Well, and I think part of it is, I mean, one of the things we're really big on in our practice is empowering students to advocate for themselves in any
Mm.
situation. If they're going to be going to college, that early practice of advocating for here's what I need in this process. So, um,
Yes, and we are so. I'm so sorry to cut you off there,
no,
Laura.
no,
I
go.
just think I think that that's so important. A big thing. So students in our program have multiple support members. Like for instance, in our research program, they have a mentor. That's their primary support mechanism. We also have a program manager who's there for them, kind of just help them guide them through the logistics. Same thing for our internships. They'll have a company manager and they'll have an internal program manager with us. And we see that program manager as really helpful for helping the students develop executive functioning skills, just like encouraging them to feel okay making mistakes in front of their mentors, telling the mentor they need support. Students at the high school level, particularly ambitious students, I think are often made to feel like they can't ever show like error or vulnerability, but you don't grow without showing those things. So I think we'll be really trying to encourage students to remember they're researchers, they're working with a mentor, not just a teacher or just kind of like a manager. They're working with someone that they can be open with as they grow and learn together.
I love it. All right, let's talk about, there's a couple things I want to talk about. I didn't warn you I was going to ask you this question, but I think you'll be okay with it. You know, there's this tension these days around this idea of pay to play, right? And I think one of the things that I feel about this world of college admissions and this world of engagement is that there's this piece where the colleges supposedly don't like to see the pay to play. And there's also this piece that they're looking for kids with intellectual vitality, kids who want to be involved and engaged. And so then there's this unspoken in between all of that, that students are magically supposed to, for free, go find a professor or a mentor at a company who's just happy to take them on for no pay or no resources and stop their day to help support students. Recently, I heard somebody say that it's not looked down upon for a musician to seek out a teacher or a mentor. It's not looked down upon for an athlete to get a coach. But somehow in this college admissions process, we've created somewhere there's this misunderstanding that if you hire some kind of organization to help you guide with research or get involved, that somehow you're paying to play. What do you think of all that?
I want to be fundamentally clear with you, Laura. I actually love and appreciate that criticism so much because I think it encourages programs like ours to think about access. And honestly, like whenever I hear kind of this criticism, all I think about is kind of access. And I think about it from two perspectives. The first thing I think about from an access standpoint is that at the end of the day, like these kinds of opportunities students want to seek out, in like maybe one of two ways. Either they're looking at other programs at university, like the top programs like MIT's RSI, MIT's Beaverworks, UC Santa Barbara's research program. Like these programs are incredibly competitive and take a small number of students every year. And the thing is, it's really funny. These programs aren't called pay to play, even though they do all have fees attached to them. Some of them some of them lower than others, but some of them quite high. And it's funny, like students at the end of the day might not be able to access those opportunities by virtue of how selected they are. And on the other hand of access, being able to identify a mentor at a company or a mentor who's a professor who's committed to providing you support, not just to execute, but like to finish, publish a project. These are access questions. Like these depend on students having, usually to their parents, the right networks, the right kind of access points that allow them to be able to navigate these kinds of opportunities. And so I see us as an important kind of bridge for access for students who don't get into these selective programs or don't ultimately have those networks to leverage. And it's really funny. Like I want to be clear that what I also appreciate about the criticism is that at the end of the day, we do cost money. And so that point of like where an access point is so interesting because from a financial standpoint, there's an argument against that. We have a financial aid program that roughly 10 to 15% of our students year on year are fully on. So they're a full financial aid doing our program for free. But let's be real. Like at the end of the day, that means 85 to 90% of our students are fee paying, upper middle, if not higher class. And that is a testament to that speaks to the fact that there's still kind of problems of access that we and all programs like us need to work on. But yeah, I don't know. It's a really interesting conversation. I feel really proud of the work that we do with our financial aid program and just providing access to those students who otherwise, because of their lack of networks or because they don't get into these selective programs, don't have. And the last thing I'll say here that I think is really important, also just to be transparent on our program and kind of the value we drive for students. We've talked to admissions officers, us and a couple of our sister programs about what do you guys think about our programs? Like very transparently and authentically. And what we hear from admissions officers is very much like pay-to-play programs like ours, where our acceptance, we're not aiming to be highly selective. Our acceptance rates are in like the 70, 90% range. Some of our advanced programs are a little bit lower because we have to have the prerequisites. We've been told by admissions officers that they don't see necessarily this huge value in like our brand name for students right now. I think it's fair to say like we're a target program, whereas these other MIT programs are reach, etc. What admissions officers see as the value is the project students produce with us that gets attached on the additional info section of their college app that is mentioned in their resume or in their supplemental essays. And so I think it's important to frame I think there are pay-to-play programs where if they don't provide students like tangible outputs, and they don't have any brand name, they are probably not driving much for students. But our focus is equipping students with these outputs that admissions officers have told us are valuable for students' applications. And so, yeah, I think that was a combination of a couple tangents.
It was such a lovely answer. And I want to be clear, that was not a criticism on my part. I actually feel like it's a celebration that there are access points. And I think, all the many conversations we've had for many years, how we can get more to access is another conversation, but I don't see it as a criticism. I think it's just really confusing for parents to know how and when. But the bottom line is the whole thing we're doing here is growing good humans. And if growing good humans for an individual is to get smarter and to get passionate, it's very difficult to just run a passion project with a mentor somewhere. And so to have this kind of programming is essential for kids who crave and want it. So for me, it's a celebration. I thought you did a beautiful job of answering the question. Let's get down to nitty gritty is what does it look like on the application? Are there certifications, projects, portfolios? Are they, how would you recommend someone adding that to their college application?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the thing that we most recommend to students coming out of this program is twofold. One is the project that they build with us is something that they should try to feature on a personal website. Or if they're doing a research program with us, they should get it published. Or if they're working in one of our advanced programs where they work one-on-one with a company manager or one of our research mentors, great too if they feel like they built a relationship. They built a good relationship with that person. They should try to get a recommendation. And so we see kind of these clear ways to build credibility through the outputs and how their mentors can vouch for them. And one specific thing that I also will say, really good fit for students who are in the computer science bucket or applying to a very technical field like, computer engineering, applied mathematics, stuff like that. Every student who goes through our program will build code. We'll help them build it in what is typically a really common like coding repository that can be featured, like a GitHub or a Jupyter Notebook. And so it's really common in this day and age for computer science apps, or if students are looking at internships in the tech space, stuff like that, you need a technical portfolio to show your skills and what you've built. And so kind of as a niche specific thing we encourage for students, even if they're not in computer science, they definitely should include on their resume or on their application a link to that portfolio, this being one of their big projects or one of different projects they might have been working on.
Does this, so wow, I never thought about that. Like they can, if they build relationships with the people, they have the project itself, they have a website, they can write about it, they can get a teacher recommendation. I mean, that's really creative as far as thinking outside the box. Because I was thinking more they'd be like, I did this program, but what's so different about doing a program and doing a research project is that you have the output, as you keep calling it, and that makes it really unique.
Yeah, I think the outputs are really important to give tangible structure to what students do with us when they write about it. Because students are, of course, learning with us. We want, especially if they're very AI driven for like their long-term goals, and we want them to be able to write about this experience in a supplemental essay. But ultimately, I think what is the most valuable thing is the fact that in the research program they build an abstract. The fact that in the internship program they walk away with an evaluation from the company. Like there are these tangible outputs we ensure the student walk away with, so that they don't just get to speak on the technical skills they built with us, they also have like something to show for it.
Do you mind sharing the range of pricing from like kind of the boot camp to the research?
Yeah, 100%. So I mentioned we have the three main program types. Our boot camps are $2,290. Our internship program is $2,600, and our research program, that's our highest price program, is around $5,400. Biggest reason being it's just around twice the length of our other programs, because we specifically build that program to ensure students have a publishable product. We have around a 65 to 70% publication rate right now, which is we're pretty proud of it at the moment. We're trying to put it higher though.
Good.
But yeah, the research program is the longest by like almost double the length of the other programs, and has a lot more support. Students have 3 instead of 2 support members, so it's a much more in-depth program.
And how long is that? So that's you. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yes, the research program is 12 weeks or 3 months to finish the project. And then it's additional 3 to 4 months of on and off of support. Typically, the reason for that being a student submits to an academic journal. The journal takes itself 1 to 2 months to get back to them. Maybe they get a lot of edits from the academic journal. Maybe they get rejected and have to go to a new journal and start the process over again. So there's a lot of on and off support that goes into the student from a mentor, a writing coach, a publication specialist, who are all working to help the student as successfully as possible at the highest level possible publish their research.
I love that. Okay, we have just a few minutes left, but tell us about like a weekly or a daily schedule, balance between lectures and hands-on activities. So if someone was to do, let's just talk about the research, because I love that. I love the research. Like how much time commitment are they looking at if they're planning their summer?
Yeah, 100%. So on the weekly front, so I best structure this as like a weekly occurrence. So students meet with their mentors once a week, and they'll typically meet with each of like their publication specialists and writing coaches once every like 3 to 4 weeks. So like once, let's say like every couple of weeks, each of these people. So in an average week, a student will meet with their mentor probably like on a Monday or a Tuesday. They will work with that mentor to identify like, here's the code I built last week. Here are the progress I made. Here's the research papers I've reviewed to inform this overall project, the AI algorithm I'm building. They'll work with the mentor to identify, okay, here's where I'm at. Here's where you need to take to go step forward. So they and the mentor will finish that meeting with kind of a checklist of what they need to do to move forward on their next scaffolded deadline or deliverable, whatever they're working towards. Over the course of the week, students will, after an hour and a half meeting with their mentor, usually spend around another 8 to 9 hours, so 10 hours total on their project. I really split that time into like 3 to 4 hours of research and reading that's informing both the AI coding they're doing as well as whatever the application area it is, be it like a medical application, astronomy. The other 3 to 4 hours, they'll probably be coding and debugging on their own. There'll probably be some amount of 1 or 2 emails back and forth they'll exchange with the mentor. And they'll usually probably at some point in time also meet with one of those other 2 people I met. Like they might hop on a call with a publication specialist to talk about how the research is shaping up. How does that strategically map onto certain journals? Or they'll meet with their writing coach, and that will be a meeting about here's how my writing is going, here's how I'm describing the AI methods, the output. So it's usually going to be like 1, maybe 2 meetings a week with these different support members, and usually around 8-ish hours of independent work for a total of 10-ish hours of commitment.
That's amazing. Tyler, that was 30 minutes. I can't believe it. I just looked at my clock and I'm like, we are done. And you were amazing. You fit in so much. I'm really excited that you have this program to offer. I have so many students this year in particular who are looking for that kind of engagement. And I'm happy we finally got to spend 30 minutes together hearing all about it.
Yeah, no, it's so nice to connect with you again, Laura, and it's so nice to be able to just chat with you, but also to the larger community. I know you've been working so hard to cultivate and grow on this platform. It's really wonderful to meet you again.
Thank you, Tyler, so much. And we will have all of your information when we post so people can reach out to you if they desire. And I can't thank you enough for all the work you all are doing.
Thank you, you too, Laura. Thank you for all that you do for student development. Excited to see each other again soon.
Me too. See you later. Bye.